Hi guys, FrostFangs here, welcome back once again, of course, to another Paladins video. We are back on the PTS with a new champion, VII, the right hand of the Tribunal, as I'm sure you can see here. The public test server has been a bit different this time around because we had everything kind of early except for the new champion, which is the focus of today's video, which is pretty much the only thing that I didn't really properly cover, although I do want to make full videos on the other stuff of course, so stay tuned to the channel for that. But VII is going to be the focus of the video. He's got 7 skins, he is a flanker, right hand of the Tribunal, and also has a bunch of firing modes, which is not what I was expecting. Some stuff leaked ahead of time, so I already kind of knew what it was going to look like. Even though I tried to purposely avoid leaks, it still ended up finding its way to me. But I didn't know anything about his kit, and it isn't really what I was expecting, although he does look kind of similar to other characters. His playstyle is quite a bit different. So let's go over it. I am recording this video about 2 AM, which is when the PTS goes up, EU time, so it might be a little bit scuffed, but we'll just go straight through it. We'll start off with his ultimate. Why not? We'll do it the reverse. Quite a bit different from what we've got in Paladins already, but similar to stuff in other games. You activate your mask, essentially, you log on to people, you mark them, and then after you've marked them and it ends or you re-trigger it, you'll deal damage and fear them. I mentioned a while ago they should use fear more because Dan was like the only character who used it somewhat regularly, and now you're going to have it in your ultimate with VII. It's kind of nice to see, but it also has a completely altered version if you grab a talent, but you can target 5 enemies. The duration of it's 5 seconds. Moving on to his weapon, which is your left click and your right click. It says it's got a 5-second cooldown. I don't know if that's accurate, but you switch it with the right click. It's got 3 modes: burst mode, mag dump, and automatic. The default one, the first one, is burst mode. You fire 3 shots, dealing 150 each with pretty damn good range, every 0.65. The second is kind of like a shotgun, sort of. It's called mag dump, and the name's pretty self-explanatory. You unload your entire mag, dealing 500 damage for every 10 bullets, and it has max capacity of 40, by the way. The weapon, I don't know why they put that here, although of course the range on it is much worse. 15 max effectiveness and then 100 max, whereas the burst mode is 300, 130, and the automatic is 90, 175, so you can kind of get how it's meant to be used. The automatic mode, which is the last one, is pretty much what you'd expect it to be, just a variation of the burst one, dealing a bit more damage, firing a little bit faster and not in a burst. Don't know why I needed to explain that. I haven't even played him yet myself. I just saw him on the stream, booted up the PTS, and I'm doing the video and we're rolling with it. I'm going to jump in a minute, but we've got explosive dodge, which is your movement on your Q, because you'll also have movement on your F. Didn't even think about that. It has 7 seconds cooldown. You dodge in 1 of 4 directions, although in the stream I think they said 8 directions. I'm not sure which one's correct. I guess we'll see. You dodge 30 units, you leave a little trap behind which stays on the ground for 10 seconds. I do remember them mentioning that, and it deals 250 per explosion. They have a radius of 35. You can have 2 on the floor at a time, and they explode every 0.45. It's a bit of a weird thing to note there, but for your F though, 14 seconds cooldown. It's a grappling hook, and also in a way a passive, or I guess add-on to the ability. You can have 2 charges, which they don't mention here, but you grapple to walls, you can stick to them, and you're invised for 5 seconds. If you do anything, you'll break the stealth, but you have 2 charges on it. Very, very interesting ability. I love the weapon, what they're going for here. The ultimate is rather standard. The ultimate isn't particularly interesting, although the fear part to it does twist it up a bit. Moving on to his talents, he's got a very, very interesting selection here. The default one, which is Tribunal upgrades. Your heavy SMG now has 3 different elemental effects depending on the fire mode you're using. Mag dump will have a fire effect to it where it will deal damage over time. Your burst mode will be electrically charged, so it will reveal enemies and also deal AoE damage. And then the automatic rifle will have an ice effect on it, which will slow. Very interesting, really, really dig that. Moving on to overcharge, which is the one you get next. Decree 77 ultimate is now overcharged, so it just changes how the ultimate works, and it will no longer fear enemies, but will deal 1100 damage after targeting them, and will also increase the recharge rate by 50%, which is crazy. I'm really happy with the direction they've gone with the talents, because I feel like if anything's going to get nerfed, it's probably going to be the talents, which I'm happy to see, because sometimes we've had a character release, the talents are kind of mediocre, and then the base gets really strong, then they nerf it, like his arm for example, although one of the talents was a little bit too good. This time around, I feel like the talents are particularly strong, except for maybe the last one, but your explosive dodge will drop an explosion where you land and take up from, and decrease the cooldown of it and the range of it by 25%. Definitely seems like the weakest out of the 3, but maybe with cards it will be something that shines. Kind of hard to tell, but moving on to the cards, again, I'll go through this pretty quick and then we'll jump into the target practice and I'll show them off a bit. The ones for your dodge, you can refill ammo when you swap alt fire. That's weird that it's under explosive dodge, doesn't really fit at all. I just think they've got this kind of mixed up. You can decrease the recoil of your mag dump. You can increase speed while you're in your automatic fire mode, which could be a default include card, depending on how you play and how strong it ends up being. If you love the automatic fire mode, you could just run this and pretty much have 20% extra speed for like the entire game. You can give yourself cooldown reset whenever you get a kill in burst mode. Same thing kind of applies to what I said with Red Room to this one. A pretty boring card, but you can increase the distance of explosive dodge, you can reduce the cooldown of your thatch after you use your roll, you can generate ammo after you dodge, and you can increase the radius of the explosion on your dodge. Pretty boring standard stuff for those. But moving on to the next line, we've got Grappling Hook, that actually is an ability you can use on enemies. I didn't even mention that because I completely forgot, and it's not mentioned in the advanced section, but you can actually grapple enemies towards you, or I think you can actually put yourself towards enemies as well, depending on what the class is. The card here says it will heal you for 100 for non-front lines and 200 for front lines, because depending on if they're a front line or not, you'll either pull them in or pull yourself in. So with front lines you pull yourself in, with enemies you pull them towards you that aren't front lines. I don't know why they forgot to mention that in the advanced section. I'm sure it'll be fixed after the test server and when he's actually in live. I imagine they might have made that decision kind of late, but it's a really cool one to include, and I think it does make him a lot more interesting to play. Really happy to see that. You can gain damage reduction while you're attached to a wall, which also could be very strong because you could just sit there for 5 seconds and get 50% damage reduction, which is kind of crazy. You can increase the strength that you're pulled, which I can't imagine many people running. You can reduce the cooldown of your dodge after you hook, another pretty standard card. Same thing with the health and the reset on the hook when you drop below a percentage, also very standard. Although I will say Fragments seems interesting. If you want to combat with a damage reduction, you can heal percentage of your max health when you're attached to a wall, which I think like a tanky playstyle could be something interesting for 7. I don't know, I think there's going to be a ton of ways you're going to play him, to be honest. And then the last one, which is hopefully a text error, you can decrease your reload speed by 5%. I'm imagining that they meant to put, decrease reload time or increase reload speed, and they got it kind of mixed up because I don't know anybody who wants 25% slower reloads. So those were the cards. He also has 7 skins because his name's 7. You've got the default one, which you were just seeing. You've got a green sort of armored one, red one, which does look really cool. Dig in that. These are actually pretty solid, by the way. They're not just strictly recolors. Deadly Pala, not really trying to say that word, is just absolutely top notch. Really digging this one. Let me actually check real quick how you get these different skins because I do not remember off the top of my head. So this one is a season pass. Of course, the coolest one is a season pass. Crimson Guard, though, which is pretty close in level of how much I like it, is just a season pass automatically unlocked, or 60k gold or 300 crystals. So if you've got tons of gold like most people do, you can just yoink this one. Then we have Death Orchid, a pretty standard purple one. The cape actually changes in all of these, which is something I wasn't really expecting on most of them. The gold one, a little bit too much gold for me. This one seems a little bit too loud. We've got Ivy Sentinel, which you get just through Gold Chest Direct Purchase or PlayStation Plus pack. Yeah, okay, there's the 7 skins. Then we've got, of course, 7 weapons, which I just showed you a second ago. Then he's got 2 pretty standard emotes. I feel like they fit the character, but nothing crazy. I'm really digging 7 in general, to be completely honest with you. And then MVP poses, default one, and then just, yeah, crouched one. Very standard stuff there. So let's jump into the shooting range. One more thing I do want to mention really quick, because I want to correct something I said in a previous video on the PTS. There's a Rambo skin. Victor, they didn't probably talk about it. I imagine that's because it wasn't properly cleared at the time, but it was in the PTS and not on the patch notes. It is actually an official crossover with Rambo, which isn't what I was expecting, but yeah, Victor has a Rambo skin that is actually licensed. Who would have thought? But yeah, they did say on the stream also that the UI elements aren't necessarily final. They're close to final, but they will be changed a little bit. And I don't know why it says that it's got a 5-second timer to switch the firing modes, because it doesn't. You can just do it whenever you want. So that's something that definitely needs to be fixed, because it says there 5 on it. So let's start with the burst mode. Yep, there we go. You can hold it. You don't actually have to tap it. A little bit slower than I was expecting for some reason. Pretty satisfying though. You do have 40 bullets though, so if you just use burst mode the entire time, you're going to have like your last shot with 1, which is kind of weird. Also, a look at the inspect. I think he only has 1, which is a bit of a disappointing thing for me. It probably would have been too much work, but I'd have loved to see him have 3 different inspects depending on the mode of fire. It would have been, probably unnecessary. Most people wouldn't have even noticed it, but for me, I think the people who really love Paladins, it would have been super cool to have a character with 3 inspects. 7 would have been too much, even if they're going for that theme, but 3 for the fire modes, that would have been sick. Yeah, here we go. We've got the mag dump. I'll just tap it once and see if it empties the whole mag. It does. Seems like you fire 4 things of 10 bullets, so I imagine, yeah, you just deal 250 4 times, so you're either going to deal 250, 500, 750, or a K, or, yeah, I'm pretty sure that's how it works, although that was kind of confusing. I guess it doesn't. I guess it does take more often than that. For some reason, I just thought it would be really simple. They seem to have actually put some work into it. It is kind of easy to miss, though, still, if you're spraying, but it does work a little bit differently than I was expecting. Yeah, okay. Do want to try this just for the sake of it. I'm going to grab max def hands and then just spam, yeah, mag dump. That is going to be ridiculous against tanks, because you're just going to absolutely mow through people. It isn't enough to kill most just from 1 burst. If you're grabbing def hands and that quarter rise is going to be built in, this is maybe going to be a crazy way to play 7, just going for def hands and then spamming this. The range on it's crappy, but the recoil isn't too hard to control, and you can just empty this into tanks if you're very, very close range. It's ridiculous. And on to the last one, which is automatic. The most boring way to play 7 for sure, but very, very straightforward. The reload animation seems a little bit jank if you go for max death hands, which will be something you see probably more often now that, you know, Cauterize is going to be built in. But that is the automatic one, though. Here's a look at the damage on the burst of fire. If you headshot on that, it's kind of crazy. I don't really notice the AoE at all. It's a bit weird. They have got custom effects, though, although the ice and the fire seem to be similar to what Armani's got. Let's a look at the mag dump again. Pretty easy to miss unless you're very, very close. You're going to have to play right in their face, and you don't have very much health, so it's not something you can actually realistically do too often. I will say, though, his weapon feels pretty damn satisfying, better than I was expecting it to. It's missing a bit of kick, but in a way that feels normal for his character. We'll switch over to the burst. There was a little bit of time between when you can actually fire, but the damage on all of the different fire modes, though, seems pretty good. The mag dump specifically with Death Hand seems kind of crazy, but the freaking inaction on it's going to make that very, very hard to realistically spam a ton. You're actually probably better off just using a normal mode and just emptying it into them this way, unless you're very, very close to a tank and you've got Death Hands maxed. But it's the weapon. We've got the Q where you just dash and leave some bombs. Pretty standard movement ability, to be honest. You can't shoot them to explode them or anything, which would be kind of cool. But if I drop them here near the pip, you'll see that they should blow up. Or maybe not. Maybe they don't work on the test server. I don't know. Pip, do you want to wiggle over this way a little bit, my guy? And I can see if they blow. Okay, I guess they don't. I guess they don't work. Does it explode if I change the talent? Maybe. Maybe it's one of the cards that's bugging it, like some stuff that happened with Sati before. Okay, so then it works. And we also leave one where we teleport to. So I guess it works with the talent. But for some reason, if you grab Tribunal upgrades, it doesn't work. Yeah, okay, that's a thing. Moving on to the F, I don't know how big the range is, but it seems way longer than I was expecting. You can actually really yoink yourself up, although it does have like a momentum system on it, so maybe the pull strength will actually be useful, because even though I was aiming quite high, that didn't actually carry me that far. But yeah, there you go, you can just kind of chill on the wall. If you fire, you won't actually fall off the wall unless you decide to by hitting jump. So that's kind of cool. Movement on that actually feels really, really good, very similar to Fora. In that aspect, I would say he's a pretty interesting mix of a bunch of different characters we've got in Paladins with a few unique elements added in. I'm really, really honestly loving 7 right now. Just being able to kind of move like this and invis and stuff is very different. Mag dump is honestly kind of crazy, but as you can see, the accuracy on it is useless. You're gonna have to be very, very close to people to be able to actually use that way of his weapon. But there's the grab if you want to pull people towards you, quite actually a powerful yoink if you do use it on your enemies. So that's also an interesting way you can play around with him. And then finally we have the ultimate, which is this. And you mark the different people, you can wiggle around a bit. You're quite vulnerable obviously because you can't use any of your other abilities, and then you'll actually trigger the thing where it deals some damage and fears them. If you switch up the talent, we should just deal a ton of damage. With the bots, they will continue moving in the direction like they showed on the stream, but we'll pull in, we'll go for the ults, get the little hit, although we actually have to hold it on the person for a second. That was not really how I was expecting that to work. Okay, that talent doesn't seem as interesting as I originally thought it was going to be. Alright, I'm actually a little bit underwhelmed with the talent that's for like the ultimate. It seems like the bombs are definitely kind of glitched on the PTS. I imagine it will be fine by the time he hits live, but you can only actually mark one person. You have kind of a laser effect, it detonates, deals 1100. I guess that's why you have so much of an increased charge rate, because you can only do it on one person, whereas with the other one and the fear and stuff, you can do it on like 5. They really do be moonwalking to their death. Okay, we'll pull ourselves over. We'll just do this again. You can kind of move it around a little bit like this, but there's no reason to do that. So yeah, it does have a pretty big explosion on it. Does seem interesting, but not exactly what I was expecting. But not necessarily different in a bad way, to be honest. Just different. Don't even know if disappointing would be the right word, to be honest. It's just different than I thought it was going to be. You can only detonate it on one person, but with the charge rate in a match, I imagine it will just be a different way to use the ultimate in your sort of kit. Whether the connection there is kind of jank, that would really, really be annoying in an actual fight, so it could do with some adjustment for sure. Maybe a better way that it could be implemented is so that you hit E and then you left click on the target, and it would like kind of latch that to them and then blow up. That would be an interesting way for it to work, but yeah, anyway, that was a look at 7. I don't really know what else I can really do here in the target mode, but that's the ultimate, the normal way it works. You can deactivate it, and then you'll fear them. But because they're bots, they're kind of glitched. So yeah, thanks so much for watching. Leave a like if you enjoyed. Definitely subscribe to the channel and turn notifications on. I'll have a bunch more videos on the test server, of course, coming soon. Feel free to jump on for yourself if you're on PC, and if you're on console, it will be out, I'm sure, by the end of the month. Probably a little bit before then. I don't know exactly. I don't remember the date, but I don't know if they even gave it, to be honest. I'll see you all really soon. And as always, stay Frost.